Welcome to the Wrestling Realm Presents Season 2 of Championship Culture. I'm Brandon the Guy, and remember, every belt has a story. Now, before we get into today's content, just want to remind you of a couple quick things. Did you know that you can watch all of the Wrestling Realm content anytime just by going to youtube.com/The Wrestling Realm? This includes all 25 episodes of Season 1 under the playlist of Championship Culture. And there's also a bonus episode as well. You can follow us on all social media platforms, which include Instagram, Threads, X, and Facebook, just by using @WrestlingRealm. And if you use @ChampionshipCulture_, that's how you'll find us on Instagram. Like, subscribe, and engage in all the conversations when we talk about all things wrestling and all things belts. And trust me, if you engage, it's never a dull moment. You can download all our audio content on Anchor, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Watch and subscribe to our Twitch channel @The Wrestling Realm. Now, if you want to save some money on some purchases for tickets, concert, live shows, sporting events, and more, go over to SeatGeek.com, and we can use the promo code Wrestling Realm, and it can save you a little bit of money on anything over $50 or more. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's topic. As you can see, it's actually volume 4. In season 1, we did volume 1, 2, and 3, and each one had a different feel to it. And I guess from the graphic, you can tell which one this will be today. And it will be no other than one of my favorite replicas or versions of this belt. And it's actually the NXT Championship, the black and gold version. Now, this is version 2, or some might call it because we had 2 different versions of version 1, but I'm just going to stick for a simple purpose and call it version 2. Now, it seems like NXT belts don't last long because we always get a change in them. This belt was introduced and was gone sooner than later, probably for not enough time for somebody to really appreciate it. When it was first introduced in 2014 by, I'll get to who later, it was retired in 2022. And it's crazy because in that short amount of time, it gave us some of the best matches, and it gave us a reason to really appreciate wrestling and to see some of the stars that we appreciate today because of the work that they did there. So let's talk about the first champion. Now, going into NXT TakeOver Orlando in 2017, Bobby Roode was the current champion. And he had the old version of the belt, and he debuted this belt. And I remember seeing this, and it was just like, you talking about an upgrade. It just looked like it was made for him. It just fit up so well. And it was like, oh wow, this is beyond belief, just a great looking belt. The X was still the focal point, but not the centerpiece. I hope that makes sense, because now we had a focus on NXT, and it looked like more of a world champion, not just like a belt that was given or like a different design. And now this is like, okay, now we can start to really pay attention to not only the wrestling but the belt. The wrestling was always there with NXT, but now the champion, it seemed like it just elevated anymore. With that being said, let's talk about somebody who made both versions of the belt look good. Now, in August of 2020, the title was vacated due to injury, but somebody kind of had a resurgence, a revitalization, a new outlook, because Finn Balor went back down there and he was more like his Prince Devitt character than anything. He was back to wearing the black leather jacket. He really didn't bring out the demon. It was just a resurgence, and he had held the title prior with the old iteration, and now he was staked to take another run. And with his run this time, it was so unique, and it was so much what is he going to do now? So many different matchups, him and Adam Cole, him and anybody on the roster at the time that he really didn't get a chance to actually mix it up with. Now this actually gave him a chance to do so, and with him being the longest combined reign champion, that's what was crazy to me, because not only was he a original NXT guy, like he came to WWE through NXT, he went up to the main roster, did some things, first ever Universal Champion, but he said, you know what, I'm gonna go back down here, and this is where I'm gonna go, and this is what I'm gonna do. And if you get a chance to watch any of those matches, I recommend the one with him and Adam Cole. You will not be disappointed. So my number 5 person to hold this iteration of the belt actually was a tag team specialist in a sort. We had seen him in the Cruiserweight Classic. We've seen the formation of his tag team. We've seen him do good things, and it was a thing where he went off on his own. Of course, the heel turn, everything happened, and he was plagued by injury, and it was sad that his run was so short. But my number 5 is no other than Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa renamed it Goldie. His whole persona changed. He was that heel that we needed, and still putting on matches that you could recall at any time. So, number 5 was the Ciampa. Number 4 was the man that I mentioned earlier, none other than the glorious one, Bobby Roode. If you want to see any match that's going to blow your mind, even him and Drew McIntyre, anything that Bobby Roode did, but some of my favorite stuff was him and Shinsuke. And I know that was for the old version of this belt, but I'm telling you, Bobby Roode, when he held this belt, it's number 4 on my list. Number 3 was a tough one, and the only reason I'm saying that because there was so many great wrestlers, so I had to pick one, and of course it was the returning. He's just made his return to WWE, and that's no other than Andrade Cien Almas. When I went to NXT back in 2016, I believe I was in Ohio, and that's where I went to my first live show, and I remember seeing a different version of Andrade. Suspenders wearing, black pants, and I was like, he just had something. I didn't realize at the time who he was because, of course, the name changed. He wasn't wearing a mask. And it was kind of unique to see him go from that to this, I don't want to call him a megastar, but it was just like he just had a presence. For him and Zelina Vega, the cheating was just enough to get him over. You know, her doing certain moves in between the matches wasn't too much to say, oh, I don't like this guy, was enough to add to the feel. And one of his biggest matches that I enjoyed was him and Aleister Black. I think those two had a rivalry that should have translated to Raw, SmackDown, PLEs. If you name it, you want to see a good match, watch him and Aleister Black. Just their rivalry was probably one of the top, and that's why he landed the number 3 spot. So, number 2. It is Adam Cole, baby. And the reason this is number 2, when him and Johnny Gargano fought for the vacated title, it was amazing. Undisputed Era had so much interference. Johnny Gargano powered through. He let you know, he kind of went back to his Johnny wrestling persona, which was what the crowd wanted. And it was a good thing because we had already seen Ciampa do his thing, and now it was okay, can this be Johnny's time? And we had already seen what Adam Cole could do with Undisputed Era, with the North American title. It was just a natural progression, and you could tell this is the heart and soul of NXT at the time, battling it out. Even though he lost the first match, and it's always crazy when you think about some of the matches, how did their second match get better? How do you keep it fresh that it doesn't feel like the same exact thing? And when Adam Cole won this belt, it was, I don't want to say validation because he had did so much in his career at the time, but when he held his belt, he was part of the whole Survivor Series angle where he went to SmackDown as the champion. He was doing things within NXT that really elevated him to like a real superstar in the face of that brand. He embodied the black and gold, and it just made me pay attention. And that's part of the reason my number 1 is who my number 1 is. And my number 1 pick goes hand in hand with number 2, because if it wasn't for this rivalry, we wouldn't have gotten the title for title match at NXT Great American Bash the second night. And it was when Keith Lee ended the long reign of Adam Cole. Keith Lee still holds the record for being the only person to hold the NXT World title and the North American title at the same time. Which, if you think about it in WWE terms, he was the first and secondary champion for one of the brands. That's like if right now, if Roman was United States champion, or when Seth was WWE champion and United States champion. It's rare that you get somebody holding 2 of those top belts unless it's like a unification or it's a part of a random storyline. So to see that, one, they had that much faith in this man to carry the company and be the face of it. It was 1, awesome match. 2, the celebration. 3, it was like a validation. We had watched this man on the indie scene kick and claw and show that he could do this, and now he did. So that's where we are with this. Those are my top 5. Every belt has a story. So let me tell you the story behind this belt. Not only when it debuted, I love the fact that it was, you took the logo and put it front and center, but still made it feel like a world champion. So in a sense, it was like an upgrade to it. So when you look at the original, you look at this, there are certain elements that are still the same. The X is still the biggest point on it. And then the N and the T are just like, as in, additions to it. But the details they put into this were the X's on the side, as you can see. There's X's all the way around. And this is where I believe, and I'm going to stick to this, Triple H started experimenting with what he could do with the straps. And we can say it without saying it, so that way it can't be replicated, or it's harder to replicate, because just the details around it were awesome to me. The fact that there's no stones on here, but it still has a shine because of the silver behind it. It's kind of like a mirror finish, and everything about it just screams at you that this is the top prize for that brand. And all of those wrestlers in my top 5 actually made me want the belt and love the belt anymore. Now you might notice my side plates. So the story behind these side plates are, they were on sale when he left WWE, and I purchased them. I do have Keith Lee side plates, but I thought it was more important to put them on a North American Championship than this. And if anybody knows me about side plates, I try to put them towards somebody that matter, and this was Karrion Kross. They basically brought him in, made him like the menace, and it was like, okay, he was dominating his entrance. He had the cool wife, he had everything that Adam Cole said in that promo, and that's why I had the side plates. It was just ironic that they were on sale, but I put his side plates on there. Plus, I think they look the best because they match with the color scheme the best. Not to say Keith Lee's don't. I'll probably switch them out, but that's the story behind this belt. So there you have it, NXT Volume 4, all about this belt and the people that held it. Now don't get me wrong, there are others that held it. I just didn't mention them in this video. But I will tell you this about this belt. If you ever see it, and I know they sold a commemorative and a regular one, if you see it for a decent price, please pick it up. It does not disappoint. As you can see how the light keep catching it, it's so shiny. I can't wait for the new iteration, whenever WWE release it, because now that we went from black and gold to 2.0, now we're in a black, gold, and white phase. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next. Heck, even if you just got rid of the color and added white behind it, or made the N and the T white, I would be okay with it, because it is a good belt design. And when it's not broke, it doesn't need fixing. Look what we did with the Universal title and the WWE Championship. We made it gold on the background to make it the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. So why can't we come out with a black, white, and gold version of this belt? We did it with 2.0. Why not? So there you have it, folks. Every belt has a story. Can't wait to hear yours.